Alright, so game number 1 is against Teach. So this is going to be a very common matchup, and I would personally say that we are heavily favored in this matchup. We do have a lot of really good on plays, but for the most part we don't really rely on them. It's more our win attacking and just big attacks that really matter. We did get to go first. So we start off with that Belo Betty, just getting an extra card in our hand. And it was a 2 cost. So here, I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, so I could play out this Farasu, or I could play out the Kuma or the Koala. And then there's also merit that I could just go for 2 5k attacks this early, because there's a high chance that he's going to play Doc Q next turn and then just KO my Belo Betty. Or he could just attack into it. But here, he's just attacking leader, and then he plays Shiryu to get rid of the Belo Betty. So it's a good thing that I didn't play the Karasu or the Koala, because he would just get rid of that and would have attacked into the Belo Betty anyway. But we are working to try to beat him before he can get into his established turns of like the 10 cost teaches. We are on 5 Darn. He did Black Hole us, so I'm just thinking what would be the best play here. There's multiple cards that you really do have to worry about in this matchup. Because we go wide so fast, cards like the 6 cost Liberation are really powerful. Being able to get rid of 2 of our bodies for 6 Dawn is really difficult for us to deal with. So you have to constantly make sure that you aren't really playing into that. But at the same time, it also matters how many bodies that they're playing, because you want to make sure that you have at least 3 bodies at all times. But there are going to be times that like you don't want to have that many. Here we did get a Lindbergh as a trigger, and then they just used their Dawn to KO it with a finger pistol, and then they swung for 6 with Shiryu and with their leader. So I will say your life is more of just a trigger resource than anything. It's only in other aggro matchups that you really have to worry about, you know, losing based off of just taking a whole bunch of damage. For the most part, your opponent's going to be more worried about how much damage they're going to be taking, rather than how much damage they're going to be doing to you. And here, we just play that 3 cost Inazuma, and then we use leader effect, because this turn we're able to do a whole bunch of 7k swings. And they got the IPID 5 million. This is my first time ever seeing this card, so I had to read it. But it does have the trigger effect of KOing one of our characters. So that kind of came in real helpful for them. So here, I'm just swinging 9, because I want to guarantee that I get another life, and then swinging the 5 is to make sure that they give me another card. So I could have went for 2 7k swings there, but there's a high chance that they would have just taken both of those, and then they would have had a total of 5 cards in hand, or yeah, they would have had 5 cards in hand rather than just 4. So I'm more worried about keeping them at a low hand size than I am about just taking all of their life as fast as possible. And here, they didn't use their on play for some reason, and the game was just over at that point. As you see, they only had 2 cards with counter. I mean, they would have gotten 2 more with counter, but because they didn't turn off our on plays, we were just able to get this dragon, guaranteeing that we have a 7k swing with our leader, and then using our leader's effect makes the dragon a 12k, makes the Kuma a 5k, and makes the Karasu a 7k. So it was just too many attacks for them to handle, and that's kind of what you're going to see is your main way of winning every time is too many attacks for your opponent to handle. But that is game 1, on to game 2. Alright, game number 2 is against the Reiju. So, I think Reiju is a pretty cool deck. Can't wait to try her out. She seems to be a lot of fun. I don't remember what set she's from though. Hopefully she's not from set 1 through 4, but that'd kind of be sad. But I will say that for this matchup, you go more aggressive and more wide than they can go aggressive and wide. And you also have Lindbergh, so their only blocker is the chopper blocker. So Lindbergh just guarantees that you beat that every time. And here we won the coin flip and we were able to go first. And this new searcher from OP10 for them is really good. I do think that they are getting a lot of really good support lately, so I do think that there's going to come a time very soon that they're going to get the last little bit of support that they really need to become another high tier deck. But right now, I will say that like Reiju has a lot of problems into some of the more prominent decks out there, especially decks like Shanks. But here, it's just our 5-Dawn turn. This is kind of our big play, is if we have a 1-drop into a 2 or 3-drop into the Rush Inazuma, because this means that we get 4 swings this turn for a large amount of damage. Like right there, we got a swing of 6, another swing of 6, and then 2 swings of 7. So they're having to give us a whole bunch of cards from hand in order to keep themselves at a relatively high life total. I mean, that turn, they're already down to 2 life, and they have 5 cards in hand. So here, they swing for 2. I give the Lindbergh. The reason being is that if I can protect my board, then I'm able to go for game really fast, but at the same time, I don't want to give up too many bodies as well. So you want to worry in this matchup more about keeping your characters on board than you do about, you know, just being able to counter out of leader attacks, because whoever has the better board is going to be the one that wins this matchup. And with them, they're primarily only able to really get 1 rusher a turn if they see their ETGs, and they need both copies, or both copies of ETGs, the 7 cost and the 4 cost. So here they got 2 cards out of our hand, and they did get rid of 2 bodies, but that is completely fine with us, because if you look at our hand is not terrible, because what we're going to do here is there is merit to swinging into this ETG for a lot of damage, or we could play out our 4-cost Ivankov and our 2-cost Koala and set up for next turn. But here, that's pretty much what I'm going to do, because with 7 Dawn we can do that and be able to still swing into it because of Koala's effect of minusing power. So we did get rid of that ETG, basically forcing them to have to use another 4-cost ETG from hand in order to be able to have that 7k swinger again. But all of our characters are not tapped, so that means that they can't swing into them. They're going to have to swing into us instead, guaranteeing that if we get another Revo army, which our deck is entirely made of, off the top of the deck, then we can do Dragon into discard the card that we draw for turn to Belo Betty for leader effect, and we're swinging 5 times for, what is that? That's going to be a 7k, 6k, 8k, 7k, 9k, with 1 extra Dawn that we could draw on something. But here, we do draw into the Karasu, so it did make me think for a second, but I decided, no, I'll just pitch this Karasu and just go for the plan that I planned on doing, because here we can do a 7k swing, another 7k, another 7k, an 8k, and a 9k. So they're going to have to give us pretty much everything if they want to survive, and that's if they can even survive at that point. So they are going to be able to survive here because they still have that chopper blocker, but they are going to be at 0 life now. We have 4 characters on the board, and if they attack us into our life and we get a trigger, we win. They also need to play a blocker here in order to survive. Otherwise, we can just put all of our Dawn on our leader and swing in and win. Here, they're just trying to clear out our board as much as possible. And I'm just trying to keep track of their Dawn too. So they still have 6 Dawn up. So I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, so the worst thing that they could do is have another chopper blocker and have another ETG and be able to get another 7k swing, but they just concede. So they did have another 4-cost ETG, but I think I looked at their graveyard here. Do I? No. So I did look in their graveyard later on and realized that they didn't have another 7-cost EGG. They did have this 2-cost chopper blocker in their hand, and they pitched it to stage, and they found a Reiju. Personally, if I were in their shoes, I would have pitched one of the 4 costs and kept the chopper blocker, just to guarantee that, like, even if I couldn't find a 7-cost ETG, then I could still be able to play the chopper and then still swing in, get rid of the dragon, and save myself for one more turn. Because if you look at what I was going to draw next turn, I was going to draw a Kuma. So I would have played that Kuma as my character for turn, and then swung with the rest, popping their chopper, essentially, making them have to use it. And then they would draw a Black Maria, and then they would probably discard that, and then hopefully they find another Reiju, and then from there, you know, it's still, I still think it would have been a loss for them, but there's ways that they could have done it to be able to just keep themselves alive just for like one more turn, giving them that extra chance of being able to go back, because I had no cards in hand. I was having to play off the top of my deck and hope for good triggers. So that is game number 2. We will now go on to game number 3. Alright, game number 3. And this time we are against Blue-Black Usopp. So I think this is going to be one of those matchups where I do think that we are favored if we find Lindbergh, but it's more 50-50 depending on how many, it's basically how many blockers do they find to how many Lindberghs, and you know, how fast we can get a bunch of attackers. But here, we do get to go first. We do get that Betty, and then we find a Lindbergh off the top, which was huge. We do also have the stage, and that's something that, you know, it could come up here. But at the same time, I just find it difficult to play the stage and use it, because for the most part, it's kind of, you have to use a Dawn, and then you also have to play the card, and you have to discard a card to hopefully find what you're looking for. So you're basically losing 2 cards for that, and sometimes I just don't think that it's worth it. And then other times it's like, you really need to see a specific card, so then losing 2 cards, or 2 cards in your hand, isn't terrible, you know, compared to if you do find it. But here, we just swing for 7, we play the raise max. The reason why we're doing it this way is because now they're on their 4 Dawn turn. And one of the big things that I can do here on my next turn is play out the 4-cost Ivankov and use leader effect, pitching the stage to be able to make myself have a bunch of 6k or 5k swings and get 2 big bodies on the field that my opponent has to deal with. But here, they do swing at us in life, and we get a Crossu, so that does change things up some. So here, I'm just going to pitch the stage, give them all, and then use effect, play out the Crossu, because now I get a 5k swing, another 5k swing, and then a 6k swing, and they're just a 4k leader for this turn. So this requires them to give me 2Ks or give me 2 cards to be able to get out of these 5K swings. And then it guarantees that they have to give me 2 cards if they want to get out of the 6K. They do have the Cavendish though. That is probably what I would consider their strongest card in their deck, because it just allows them to be able to just constantly draw 2, trash 1. And be able to see their other power plays, like their 7 costs and see like more blockers. But here they play down the Leo and tap down their leader, which is really good for us, because one of the big things that I'm worried about in this matchup is the 4-cost Zoro. They do get two blockers right there, and they do discard a 7-cost Luffy. But yeah, the 4-cost Zoro being able to rest their stage or their leader and pop a 4-cost would be able to like pop our Karasu right now or pop our Ivankov. But here, they're just swinging 7 into our Raise Max, getting rid of that. And I'm just like, that's fine. Because we still have 3 strong bodies right now. We're at 7 Dawn. So I'm just thinking, okay, so how exactly do I want to do this? I could play this 7-cost Sabo, which I know that it can't be bounced by their Kairos because it's a 7-cost next turn, and then we can also fix the top cards of our life as well. And we can also play out this Lindbergh using the Ivankov effect. So right here, we're just going to start off with a swing of 8, minusing 1 to their leader. So they're just going to give us a blocker here. And then we'll do a swing of 5, so they'll most likely just give us a 2k, or they'll have to give us 2 cards. So if they give us the Bartoleo, do another 5k swing. Here, they're thinking a little bit, they decide to take it, and then do this Ivankov. They're at 6 cards in hand, so they're not getting a draw from us killing their blocker. And then we just put the 4-cost Kuma on top and take the bottom of our life. The reason for this is because right now we're at a total of 5 or less life for me and my opponent in total. So if they do swing into us, we're getting another body, another 5k body specifically, to guarantee that we're going to have multiple attacks next turn. So they're going to have to play a lot of blockers, otherwise they're going to lose. But they also have to worry about my board. I do still have 1k in counter in hand, and I also do have this 8-cost dragon as well. So there's really no way for them to really win here. They would have needed too much. So they were at 8 Dawn. Yeah, here they can go for 2 5k swings right there, a 6k, or they can go for 3 6k swings. So here they're just thinking like, okay, well, let's try to just beat them right now. So I just play this Kuma, guaranteeing that I have nothing but high bodies to attack with, and they're still just continuing to attack. I could counter out of this one right now, but that means that they're going to swing into the Karasu with their Usopp and kill it. So I just decide to take that. I decide not to use its trigger because it's just a 2k in hand now. And then they attack, we get that, and that is game. So here we're just going to discard, give our characters their attack, swing in, make him a 4k. At this point he has to give me 2 2ks and a 1k to survive that. Then swing another 8k. He does have a bunch of cards in hand though, but yeah, there's no way for him to survive. So I shall just let it play out real quick. And there you go. So if you look at what cards he had in his hand, he really did brick a lot. I have been testing Usopp myself lately because I do think that he's a fun leader to play. And this is kind of one of the big issues that you have with him right now, is that he revolves around the 7 cost for Becca, and then the Kairos and the 4 cost Zoro. But at the same time, the Zoro is a brick, the Kairos is a brick, the 7 cost Luffy is a brick, the King Kong gun is a brick, and most of your other counters are 1Ks, except for Bartoleo and Toy Soldier. I think those are the only 2Ks that you run in the deck. So there's a lot of times that you'll just constantly be drawing. You want to find this Cavendish to try to like keep your hand with some counter, but most of the time it's just all low counter that you're just going to have to give up multiple cards per swing for. Makes it really difficult. But those are all of the games this week. I hope that you enjoyed them. If you did, please let me know, and have good games for the rest of your days.